Howdy folks, and don't worry, this is not today's main video, but I felt it was necessary to do a follow-up video to yesterday's French Tier 1 to 6 cruiser preview video, because, well, remember I warned you that all of the stats were subject to change, and guess what? The stats have changed already. It's a good news, bad news situation, depending on the ships that you're interested in. Some of the ships are being buffed, some of the ships are being nerfed. So, from the bottom to the top, here are the current changes to the French cruisers. All of the French cruisers that receive the speed boost consumable, so that's the La Galissonière from tier 6 all the way up to tier 10, are having the effect of that speed boost buffed by 5% from 10 to 15% speed increase. Personally, I don't think that's enough, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. Changes to specific ships, starting at tier 1 with the Bougainville, it's having its reload buffed by 25%. It's dropping from 8 to 6 seconds. That's a very, very big buff for this tier 1 French cruiser. At tier 2, the Jurion de la Gravière is also receiving a 10% damage per minute buff, with its reload dropping from 10 seconds to 9 seconds. The bad news begins at tier 3 with the Friand, which is receiving a massive nerf to its damage per minute output. The reload of the guns is nearly doubling from 7 seconds to 12 seconds. The bad news continues at tier 4 with the Duguay-Toine, which is also having its damage per minute nerfed and the reload of the guns increasing from 10 to 12 seconds. The bad news continues at tier 5 with the Émile Bertin, which is also having a massive nerf to its damage per minute, with the loading time of the guns increased from 7.5 to 12 seconds. And just when you thought it was safe to load the baguette launchers, the bad news continues at tier 6 with another damage per minute nerf to the La Galissonière, which is having its reload increased from 7.5 to 10 seconds. That's it for the bad news, however. From here on in, it's pretty much all good news. The Tier 7 Algérie, which is the first of the French heavy cruisers armed with 203mm guns, is having the rotation speed of those gun turrets buffed by 1 degree per second from 6 to 7 degrees per second. At Tier 8, the Charles Martel is having the loading time of its upgraded guns buffed from 12 to 10 seconds. At Tier 9, the Saint Louis is also having the loading time of its guns buffed from 12 to 10 seconds. And then at Tier 10, with the Henri Lequatre, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, the drag coefficient for the 240mm armor-piercing ammunition for these guns has been improved. Armor-piercing shells fired from these 240mm guns have a pretty respectable initial muzzle velocity of 845 meters per second, but the shells have so much drag attached to them, or they did have so much drag attached to them, that the shells slowed down dramatically in flight, which meant that this ship, despite having huge 240mm guns for a cruiser, had very lackluster armor-piercing penetration at range. This change should help address that. So that's at least one of the 3 major problems associated with this French Tier 10 cruiser that's been addressed. No changes so far to the high explosive ammunition, which has very low damage when it bothers to explode at all, and most of the time it doesn't, it just shatters on your target's superstructure or belt armor. And no news of any impending changes to the terrible deck armor of this ship, as well as the terrible belt armor, but it's the deck armor that's the main issue. It only has 25mm, which means that any battleship that this thing is likely to fight that shoots at it from long range is going to score plunging fire citadels right through the deck armor. Still, 1 out of 3 isn't bad. Remember, as always, these ships are a work in progress. I will be bringing you a video on the Tier 7, 8, 9 and 10 at some point in the near future, pending further changes, but I do expect to see further buffs to the French Tier 10 before it goes live, because at the moment it's just not very good. And that's it for this World of Warships French Cruiser update. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.